I've talked about this before on this channel, but we think a lot about the fact that the Carl-Con defense is an improved French defense, right? You get pressure on e4, but instead of playing e6, d5, you play c6, d5 so that your light squared bishop can be improved. But not a lot of people think about the Czech Pirc defense often leading into an improved French defense. Let me show you how this happens. So against the move e4, we're playing d6 and knight f6. So far, we're playing a regular Pirc, but instead of going into the main line here with pawn to g6, we're going with the move of c6 with the Czech defense or the Czech Pirc defense. So many benefits of playing this move. I have over a 6-hour course on this move of c6, and by doing that, right, we're neutralizing this knight. We're looking at d5 and b5 options in the future, and we're also giving our queen a ton of flexibility that our opponent often doesn't think about. Now, sure, maybe sometimes we'll play queen to c7, e5, knight bd7, and just go from there and go into some kind of black lion type of game. But there's other times where it's like, hey, if I see bishop to e3 or bishop to g5, I could play queen b6 and go after that pawn on b2. A very surprising move to most white players here. And if we see a move like f4, your opponents are probably not expecting queen to a5, pinning your knight, and also threatening to take the pawn on e4. There is so much rich play here. We've even seen top players just start hurling this b-pawn very quickly. So you kind of get to come up with your own style in terms of that. If you're interested in my over 6-hour course on the Czech Pirc or any of my other courses, including my newest over 11-hour course on the modern Scandinavian, I'm giving out a 30% off discount code, only good until the end of April. If you're interested in that, go down to the pinned comment, go down in the description below, and I'll leave a link there. Plug in the discount code CHESS25, and you will receive 30% off on your purchase, whether you get 1 course, 2 courses, 3, 4, or all 5 of mine on Gumroad. But all right, let's continue with the game here. So knight to f3. How do we get an improved French here? There's multiple options that we have. I mean, if you want to play g6, go ahead, right? That's one move that's playable. But I really like this move, bishop g4 myself. Like practically speaking, bishop to g4 is such a great idea. We're now going to be looking to play e6 and d5. Why didn't we play e6 right away? Well, if we play e6 and d5, white pushes. Oh, wait, our bishop is just atrocious. It's just bad. So let's get our bishop out first. Let's then play e6 and d5. This is what happens in the game here, right? 2 very strong players here. Black plays pawn to d5. And if white decides to take, which is not what happened, that's not a great move because we capture back with the c-pawn. We have a great position, guys. I mean, just a great position. Knight to c6, a6. You could play a rook over to c8, a bishop to d6. This is fantastic. I mean, it's just a great position overall, right? You got benefits of the Carl-Con, benefits of the French, and you got 2 pawns in the center versus 1 if you're looking at the E and D files, which is fantastic. But all right, in the game here we have pawn to e5, and we now have black dropping this knight back to d7. Bishop f4 is played, and one can make an argument that black here should play bishop to e7, right? And then in the future look towards the c5 push, but right here in the game we have pawn to c5. Why is this considered to be an improved French defense? Well, the reason for that, right? The reason this is considered to be an improved French is because of the fact that in the French defense, usually our bishop is on c8, and it's bad. On top of that, usually in the French defense, white has a pawn on c3. But when we played the Pirc and we played d6 and knight f6, we lured that knight out to c3. That's not a pawn, which means that the pawn on d4 is not defended by a pawn, which means when we take it, this pawn on e5 is not going to be defended by a pawn, which is huge. It's fantastic for us. Because if white captures back with the pawn on e5 is still very strong. We're not going to take that pawn with a knight and lose our knight when a pawn captures back. But if it's a bishop or a knight or a rook or a queen defending that pawn, those pieces are less expendable, and it makes this pawn on e5 that much more weak. All right, so there's different approaches, again, to this kind of position. c5, very playable move. Bishop to e7, very playable move. a6, very playable move. There's so many options here. But c5 here does give black a very solid playable game. And h3 is playing the game here. The moment white did this, well, black's just better. We have an edge. We see capturing on f3 in the game here. Bishop captures back. And now from international master Nikolov, we see the move of knight to c6. Now, there's 2 moves here that are good, right, that I would consider the top options. One of them is knight c6, and the other is capturing on d4. Now, if we capture on d4 and the queen takes back, that's just not a great idea for white because we play knight c6 with tempo against the queen. The queen then runs away. We have a lot of pressure against e5. We could take that pawn right away, but the engine goes, you know what? There's no rush here. Let's keep developing our pieces. Let's get closer to castling kingside. This pawn is weak. In order for this pawn to be defended by a pawn, you got to get 2 bishops out of the way and then push the f pawn. And if you do that, your diagonal is very weak. So this is just a problem that white's not going to be able to get rid of for a while. If a3, we play bishop a5. If you kick our bishop again, okay, we got 3 attackers on that centralized e5 pawn. And going back because of that, white should play knight to b5 and then look to capture back with their knight. Now here, sure, we'll take, right? We'll take on e5. We don't really have any crazy opportunities to pin this knight to a queen or anything like that. So we'll take the pawn. And if white wants to take on c6, we can capture, trade down here. If queen to c3, let's play rook c8. And this is the position here where white does have an edge in development. They have a lot of pressure on us, but at the same time, like our position is rock solid here. I'm not sensing a lot of major weaknesses that white can take advantage of. And there's multiple moves that we have here that are playable, including rook to g8. And this is one of those positions where it's like, hey, you have a slight advantage as black. You're up a pawn, you're down some development, you got to play some good defensive chess, but you are better. You do have a better position. And I think the ability to grow in your defensive game is a great skill. And a lot of players, you know, they think about attacking chess, and I get it. When I was growing up, I always thought about attacking chess. I was looking at Mikhail Tal, I was looking at Josh Waitzkin, I was looking at Gary Kasparov, I was looking at all these players that play great attacking chess, but there's something about playing good defensive chess that's not only practical, that like you have to be good at defending in chess if you want to be a good player, but it's also helpful for your attacking game as well. It is, right? Because if you get good at defense, you're going to learn when you're attacking, oh wait, if I do this, my opponent can do that. If I do this, my opponent can do that. And your attacking concepts actually grow in terms of your understanding of complicated subjects because of your defensive prowess. So I think attacking helps defending. I think defending helps attacking. And I think growing in the skill of playing good defensive chess is a good thing to learn. So in that kind of position there, I think this is a great position to drill with your friends. If you have a friend or a sibling or a spouse or whatever, whoever it may be, right? You know, this is a good position to drill. Like black has a slight edge here, a slight edge. Black's not winning. So if this ends up to be a draw, it's not like black failed, but black does have a slight edge, and white here has to try to figure out, okay, how do I attack a position like this? How do I put pressure on black? But all right, there's my rant. Bishop takes f3. What do we do now? Knight to c6, right? That's what was played in the game. Yeah, I mean, again, you could take on d4 or play knight to c6. In the game here, white ends up capturing on c5, and we now have bishop capture c5. Logical move. Now, as I mentioned, this pawn on e5 is not defended by a pawn. Let's just pretend that was a pawn for a second. Are we going to think about taking this? Nope, because we're just getting pawns out of that. But with the bishop defending it, we really are eyeing up that pawn, and we really are thinking about capturing it every single move. Knight to a4 is played, attacking our bishop. And black here goes, you know what? I like my bishop. I'm going to keep it. Great play here. You don't want to give up your bishop. You don't want to have 2 bishops versus 2 knights. I love my knights, but 2 knights against 2 bishops can be very difficult, especially in a position like this that can open up very quickly. And your bishop is a strong one. It's not like your bishop's on c8, right? We're playing a French defense type of game, but we got rid of our bishop on c8. For you French defense players, imagine if you could play your French, but you could just automatically get rid of your bishop on c8 for a knight on f3. That would change your game a ton. And this bishop on e7 is on the opposite color of its own pawns, so this bishop's very active, and yeah, it's doing a great job for us. So rook to e1, rook to c8 is played. And notice just how easy this was for us, right? If you memorize this type of idea, you can play d6, you can play knight f6, go into the Czech Pirc. If you see knight f3, all right, we pin the knight. We now go with e6 and d5. If they push, okay, fine, we bring our knight back, right? Pushing is a lot better for white, actually, than taking, because, again, we take towards the center, and c6 is open for our queenside knight. From this point, let's play c5. Okay, we'll capture on f3. Okay, we'll play knight c6. Okay, we'll capture with our bishop, right? None of these moves are that crazy. It's very easy. It's a very playable game to get to this point. And here is black. Black has an edge. Rook to c1 is played. We have castling kingside, and now pawn to c4. Black captures back. Is rook captures back a good move? The answer is no. But it's not because of b5. Now, sure, this is a fork, but now the knight on c6 hangs. White takes it. White could take on c8. Capture on a4. We're now sitting in a position where white is up in material. They're up a pawn, and we're losing. So going back, what do we do instead? We would play the move of knight d takes e5. beautiful move. We're attacking this queen, right? And it's like, okay, if you wanna play queen takes d8, we do have a little check there that we can throw in. Take the bishop, then capture the queen, right? That's an idea that you can go with. If you see bishop takes e5 and then white go, okay, I'm going to take on d8. Again, we have that check there. If you take our knight, right, what do we do there? Well, if you take our knight, we could either just take your rook on c4 or take your queen and then capture the hanging rook. That's great, right? That's obviously great for us. And if you take our rook on c8, okay, we'll now throw in a check, right? We don't want to take that rook and then lose our knight. Let's get something for that knight, then capture on c8. Here we're not down a pawn, we're up a pawn, and because of that, we're winning this position. Going back, d takes c4. White goes, okay, I'm going to take on c6 instead of capturing on c4. Good decision on their part. Rook takes c6 is played. Queen to g4 is played now. And the engine, really likes f5 here. f5 kicking the queen. If capturing back, knight takes f6. We can now centralize our knight to d5. This is a nice position for black. I will say, though, I understand why black didn't want to go into this with, a pawn on e6 is isolated. But this is a nice position. If you start looking at it closely, it's like, gosh, that knight on a4 is not very good. The bishop really can't put pressure on either of those pawns. So that's what that's what black should have went with. But anyways, queen to g4. Instead, we have the move of king h8. Playable move, right? Playable move against rook e3. Again, the engine keeps wanting f5. We see instead the move of b5. And now the move of knight to c5 here, just continuing to improve. We now have knight to d3. It's very important, by the way, that this queen defends the knight, right? Because if the rook takes, we can't capture with our pawn or we're going to lose our rook. So what do we do instead? We capture with the queen, right? We capture with our queen there, we're okay. So by playing knight d3, that's okay. We just got to keep an eye on that guy because this rook is hanging and white could take advantage of that in the future if we're not careful. Rook to g3 is played. We now have rook g8. I love this defensive technique of bringing your king to h8 and then just moving the rook over. That's something that a lot of players miss. Knight to d6 is what white goes with here. We see capturing. And now rook takes d3. Black takes. And at the end of this, a very interesting position emerges where we're sitting at even material, but it feels a little bit unbalanced in terms of the position. And in fact, it feels really unbalanced because of this pawn on d3. We got 4-on-4 on the king side, but on the queen side, we got 2-to-1, and we have a passed pawn on d3, which obviously is in black's advantage there. Queen d1 is played, and we now have queen to d4. Queen to d4, centralizing the queen. Even if you played rook c1, queen d4 is a good move. Let's play actively here. Let's attack the pawn on b2. Let's attack the bishop. Let's attack the centralized e-pawn. Queen d2 is what white goes with here, and now the move of rook to d8. Playable move. Rook to c3. Now, how is white going to win that pawn on d3? They can't, because this pawn is on a light square. Notice that this pawn was not stopped in a dark square, but on a light square. So this bishop can't help out. It just can't. This king can't help out. I mean, where's the king going to go? You can't put it on e3 at some point. You can't put it on c3. And sure, you got two attackers, we got two defenders. This pawn is deadlocked. White cannot win this pawn as long as we keep defending it well. That's a major weakness about bishops, right? They're so limited in their scope much of the time. h6 is what was played here. We have g3, and now the move of queen e4. Going, hey, your bishop's on a dark square, your queen's on a dark square, your rook's on a dark square. Let me start taking advantage of the light squares here. And we now have queen to e2. Now, white can't take this, or else they're just dead lost, because we capture back. We're looking at promotion. If you play bishop to d2, okay, fine, we'll take your bishop. We're still looking at promoting. If you play rook to e3, we throw in a check. If you play rook to c1, we throw in a check. We're winning. So here in the game, we see the move of rook to c5 and now king h7. I like this move. I like this move because now our rook can freely move without worrying about some kind of check and capturing off our bishop. This is what you call prophylactic chess. Moving your king to a spot where your opponent's tactical ideas go out the window, even if they're not there yet. Like potentially white's thinking, okay, if that rook moves, I have a check, I can win the bishop. Now that's just not there. That's prophylactic chess, preventing threats before they even happen. Rook to c2 is played here. Do we want to take this? Not really. White captures back. Now it's one-on-one. We don't have a centralized queen. Because of that, their king can start getting active here. King f3, looking towards solid spots. So we don't see that. We instead see the move of queen e4. Here we're not going to trade down. We're not a material. That doesn't help us here. We like the fact that this king can't activate right now. So we continue in this kind of sense. And we're also threatening towards capturing that rook now. So we see rook to c3, rook to d7. Notice that's playable because this king was already on h7. And if you play rook c8 now, I mean, we're just going to take on e5, capture again. We're good. Right now, we got 2 attackers, 2 defenders. But the moment one attacker leaves, okay, one of our defenders can leave. a3 is played here. We now have bishop to c7. Okay, we don't want to take on e5 there because then we see capturing back. And one might think, okay, I take on d3, I take on b2. Oh, wait, we're in check. We're sitting at even material, and anything can happen in this kind of position. So that's not what we want. So with the move of a3, we instead see bishop to c7, capturing on e5. We have capturing back with our queen. b4, queen e2. Look, you can't take. Again, I mean, we have rook d1 ideas. If you play rook to e1, rook to d1. If you play f4, rook to d1. If you play king g2, rook to d1. King f3, we could take the rook or even just go, you know what, I want my queen. Right? So, okay, white plays rook to d1. Again, just taking us help here. Not really. Then this king's going to start helping out with that pawn. So we instead see the move king g6. Again, you cannot take because we capture back. If you play rook e1, rook d1. If you take our rook, okay, we promote into a queen. So we see the move of a4 here. Now we see capturing. Notice black got their king a little bit more activated before taking on d2, and this is a great benefit to black. Now this king is very active here. White's king is very much behind. If we did see king f1, I mean, this black king is just going to start mowing in this position. f3 is played instead to try to prevent some of that activity, but okay, king to e5, king to d4, rook to c7 here, king to e1, rook c1 check is played. By the way, if the king wanted to move rook to c2 is winning there, right? You can't take, or else we're going to promote. If you play king to e1, we have king e3, and if you go back with your rook, rook to h2, beautiful idea there. And if you take, all right, we capture back, we're going to promote. So in the game, we have rook to d1 instead of king f2. Okay, we have rook to d1 there. We now have rook c2. White resigns the game. And sure, going back, we could have captured right here. Notice, by the way, we don't want to play king e3 and try to force this because we can't force it. This king could just stay there, and white could start to actually push their pawns. They're winning now. We could win that position by starting to bring our king over and looking towards these pawns, but it's much simpler. It's a much more simple win for us to play rook to c2, bring this king in, rook h2 ideas. Hope you enjoyed this one. See you in the next video. To finish out, I wanted to give a big shout out to my Patreon community, specifically Walter, Rob, Steve, Rob, Ray, and Roger, and the rest of my Patreon community. Thank you guys for your support. If you haven't checked out the Patreon already, there are some exclusive benefits that you gain by becoming a member. I look forward to seeing you over there, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.